So welcome everybody. We're going to talk about expired listings, the fastest and easiest way to get listings. Now, I know that's hard for some of you to believe that expired listings are the fastest and easiest way to get listings right now. So before we get too deep into this, I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of competition for expired listings, but most agents are doing it wrong and they're inconsistent with their efforts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a faster, easier, more productive way to get expired listings right now. Now, it does take a little effort to get the system set up. I mean, this is not fishing in the fish jump in the boat. But when you do, when you take the time, you get it set up properly, it will pay off with a steady flow of listings. So you make more money, you have more consistent income, and you have a lot more time and flexibility. All right, fair enough? So let's get into it a little bit. Now, one thing before we start. There's nothing for sale today. All right. Nothing. All right. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. Everything that I'm going to show you today, you're going to be able to do it yourself. In fact, as a bonus, if you stay with me until the end, I'm going to send you an implementation guide that you can use to set up everything that I'm going to show you today. Let's start with something that you probably already know. The hardest part about being in real estate is finding people that want to do a transaction, right? And so this is the part that most agents never figure out, and they end up struggling until they're finally forced to quit the business. Now, to solve this problem, you've got to figure out how to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time. And when you do, that's when everything changes. Now, if we haven't met before, I'm David Bartels. In my last 2 years of full-time production, I sold over 300 houses and I did over $300 million in transaction volume. And I did it the hard way for a very long time, probably the same way you've been taught to do this. And at my peak, I was spending $12,000 a month on telemarketers. So everything that I'm going to share with you is the result of my need to figure it out and how to build a successful listing-focused business. So I'm going to show you how to get sellers actually reaching out to you without cold calling, without door knocking, without mailers, ads, or my least favorite thing, posting your face all over social media. All right. Now, let's start with the right person. Remember, it's the right message to the right person at the right time. Because this is an expired listing program, I'm going to start with the right person, expired listings, and maybe a little motivation about working expireds. Now, there's a lot of lead types you can work. You can work FSBOs, expireds, absentee, probate, and foreclosure leads, just to name a few. Your number one lead source should be your sphere of influence. Now, the problem most of you are having, with focusing only on your sphere is that your sphere is not giving you enough listing opportunities. Now, the reason is because your sphere is not selling as often as they used to. The average housing turnover rate has dropped to its lowest in history at 2.7%. That means sellers are holding onto their house for an average of 12 years. It used to be every 7 years before the pandemic. So whatever struggle that you're having, it's not just you. Listings have gotten harder for everybody. And so you have to expand your sphere if you want to build a consistent listing-focused business. So I like to start everybody off with expireds and cancels because they convert at a high level. Now, expireds convert about 15 times more than sphere of influence leads. Why? Because they already made the decision to sell. There's a 40% probability that an expired seller is going to relist within 30 days. It's 65% over the next 24 months. The problem that expired leads are trying to solve is my house didn't sell, but I still want to sell it. So now that you've got the right person, the next step is crafting the right message. Now, what I figured out was that sellers weren't interviewing agents because they wanted to hire an agent. Nobody wants to hire an agent. Sellers are interviewing agents because they're shopping for the right strategy and then hiring an agent to implement the strategy they like best. All you have to do is figure out how to be the agent with the best strategy. Now, once I understood that the agent with the best strategy wins, I just had to put together my strategy. So the pivot I made in my own business to go from 76 transactions 1 year to 173 the next, was to build all of my messaging around a 10-day strategy to sell fast and for the best price. Now, I experimented with a lot of options, and I settled on the 10-day strategy to sell fast and for the best price for a lot of reasons. It just worked better. So all I did was I packaged it and I presented it as a strategy that could be presented visually. And so it worked for me and now hundreds of other agents, because every seller has two things in common. They want to sell fast and they want to get their price, right? And so your challenge is to come up with your own strategy to attract sellers. Now, what will not work is a variation of, I'm a good agent, you need a good agent, I'll do a great job if you hire me to be your agent, right? That's what most agents are doing. So whatever strategy that you settle on, it needs to focus on solving the seller's problem, what the seller wants. And so it should focus on selling fast and getting the best price. Now, for you, it could be a home seller's guide to selling fast. It could be how to get multiple offers in today's market, or maybe 8 things every homeowner should know before selling. Look, you can use AI to brainstorm and outline everything for you. But whatever it is that you choose, it should make people want to hear more about it. Now, it's not enough to have a catchy headline or title. You're going to need to support whatever you decide to do. You need to support it with how you're going to achieve the promised objective. Any strategy that you use should also include price, presentation, exposure, and strategy to make their listing the hot new property on the market. Remember, when you meet with the seller, they're going to choose the agent with the best strategy, not the agent with the most years in business. You just need to be that agent. Now, to implement this for me, I created an ebook around the 10-day strategy, and I used it as a lead magnet. Now, these are examples of different lead magnets that we've created for other agents. Now, you can create your own ebook too. Now, in the implementation guide that we send you for staying until the end, we actually give you the exact prompt that you need to use to get ChatGPT or Claude to actually write your ebook for you. Now, your guide, your ebook, if you will, should address what sellers actually care about, their pain points. It should talk about some of the market challenges, the frustration with their current approach, how you would present their property, how you're going to get exposure, how you're going to execute the strategy, and how you're going to make sure that they're pricing competitively to get the best results. Your concentrated launch strategy should also be included, and you need to create differentiation between you and what everybody else. How is your approach going to be different? When you do this, you're going to position yourself as an expert problem solver, not just another agent that's asking for a listing. At the end of the day, you want to offer them value up front. This is going to make them a lot more likely to engage with you. It should also include your picture and your bio. And because you're the author, as the author, you're going to have instant credibility and massive differentiation between you and other agents. So you need to lead with strategy, not with credentials. The objective of this ebook is earning their attention first, not convincing them to list with you. Once you've got your ebook, you've got the messaging in place, now you're going to be ready to go. Now, here's where a lot of agents get stuck. So let me save you a lot of time. You don't need the perfect database to get started. You need 4 things: the owner's name, you need the property address, you need the phone number, and you need an email address. That's it. All right. When you have those things, it's enough for you to be able to start a conversation today. My recommendation, don't do this yourself. Buy the leads. Just buy the leads. Most services, you can get these leads for under $100 a month. You can have them pre-scrubbed against the do not call list, and you can import them directly into your CRM. Just keep it simple. Overbuilding your data set is not preparation. It's procrastination. This is a point, shoot, aim opportunity. So don't get hung up in the details. The agents who are winning expired listings are not the ones with the best data. They're the ones that are working the leads properly. So whatever you do not let getting ready become the reason that you never start. Now, we don't sell leads. That's not the business that we're in. But to help you get started, I've included the links so you can get free trials from our vetted lead sources in the implementation guide. Okay. So everything that you need is going to get started. The next step is message delivery. Now, most agents resort to cold calling these leads, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. All right. But I prefer texting because 92% of sellers say they prefer a text message over a phone call, and 98% of sellers actually open their messages, making texting by far the most effective way to get the right message to the right person at the right time. And if you can get just 1% of all the expired and canceled leads in your market asking you for more information, now you're listing 1 or 2 extra homes per month. Now, I'm going to show you how to do the texting version first. All right. And so this is what I call the easy way. And then once I show you the text version, if you prefer to cold call versus text, then I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. When I first started texting, we were manually texting 1 lead at a time before we finally identified the technology that allows us to automate the entire process. Now, most CRMs, and you should all have one, allow you to send text messages manually. You need a lead source or you need a CRM to do what ours does, we'll gladly get you a link for a free trial. On the last page of the implementation guide, the technology I'm getting ready to show you, you can get a free trial of that service and you'll be able to automate everything that we're doing. Now, whether or not you decide to automate it or manually call or text, it's important that you scrub all the leads against the do not call list. Now, this is not a do not call, TCPA coaching course. Just make sure everything's scrubbed against the do not call list and make sure you're not calling or texting people that are on the do not call list. It's a recipe for disaster. All right. Now, the way that our system works is that once the system is set up, the leads come in and the messages go out. All right. Now, I want you to note the tone of the messages here. We're not soliciting the lead and asking if they want to list their house. That doesn't work. All right. What we do is we ask if it would be okay about selling fast and for the best price. That's a much easier yes that results in more conversations and more closed transactions. The secret is not texting versus calling. There's no magic in that. Anybody can send a text. The magic is in the message, the timing, and the consistency. You've got to get the right message to the right person at the right time. Now, here's the thing with timing, and this is where a lot of agents get it sideways. The average number of contacts needed to convert these leads is 10, but the average number of attempts most agents make before giving up is 2 or 3. That means these leads actually get better as they get older because there's less competition. So you have to be persistent and consistent. So in this example, you can see that we sent 3 messages without a response. Most agents assume that no response means not interested, but what it often means is not now. By the way, the record is 61 messages to a seller in Riverside, California without a response before she asked for more information and ended up listing her house. So in this example, you can see with just 1 more attempt, we get a yes. And that yes is a seller asking for more information. And so when they do, that's when you follow up, qualify them, and book the appointment to meet with you. Now, how to do this is in the implementation guide. So once they say yes, that's when you're going to follow up. This is what I would say. We were just exchanging text messages. You asked for more information about getting your household fast and for your price. We emailed it over. I wanted to make sure that you received it, see if we can connect so that I can see the house and we can discuss the different strategies for getting your home sold fast and for the best price to see what makes sense for you when you're ready. Is Tuesday or Wednesday better to do that? And that simple script works to book an appointment about 40% of the time. So now it's just math. If the objective is to get just 1 extra listing appointment a week, that's only 4 a month. All right. And you know that you can book appointments with about 40% of the sellers that ask for more information. That means you just need to find 10 people a month, maybe 1,000 leads. You just got to find 10 people a month to say, okay, I want more information. Out of those 10, you should be able to book 4 appointments. If you convert 1 in 4, 1 listing a month. Convert 2 in 4, that's 2 listings a month. And if your average market is $400,000 and $10,000 commission, That unlocks 10 grand a month, maybe 20 grand a month in additional GCI. You following the math? All right. So we've been talking about texting versus calling, but if you prefer calling or a combination of both, then do it that way. All right. Now, texting is the more passive method. That's my preferred way to do it. All right. But that's not everybody. If you prefer calling or a combination of both, that works as well. In fact, you will get better results by doing both. Calling and texting beats calling or texting. If you do both, you can really go faster. Now, however you decide to do it, the objective is the same, a face-to-face meeting with the seller. Now, when you first call the seller, you offer to send them the guide, you get their email, and then you ask them to meet at the property. One conversation, straight through. Now, here's the thing with calling. Only about 8% of people are going to answer their phone versus 98% of people who will see your text message. You see the difference? All right. And so the grind with calling is the dialing to get them live. But if you can get them to answer, this works very well to book a face-to-face meeting better than anything that you've tried before. So here's the big difference between the two paths. When you lead with texting, you call after they ask for more information. That makes it a warm follow-up instead of a cold call because they've already raised their hand by asking for your guide. They're not a stranger anymore, and you're not a stranger to them, all right? It's a softer entry if cold calling is not your strength, and the callback converts better for exactly that reason. So pick the lane and run it consistently. None of it works if you're just doing random acts of marketing. Just pick a lane because the worst option is the one that you actually do because it didn't feel comfortable. All right. So you've got to do what you're going to feel most comfortable with. Comfortable and consistent beats perfect and never. Now, the call first approach works the same as texting first. The same principle, just a different move. So let me tell you what you're not going to do. So we're talking about calling here, not texting. You're not going to solicit the listing. You're not going to tell them how great you are. You're not going to pretend you have a buyer or that you might have a buyer. Every other agent are doing those three things, which is precisely why they're getting hung up on. Sellers are tired of pitches. What they want is solutions. What they're looking for is strategies. What they want is answers, not promises. So this is your chance to stand out by being different, by offering them a new strategy and a new hope that they're going to be able to sell fast and for their price. That's the whole shift. You're positioning yourself as a problem solver, not a salesperson. The agent who solves the problem gets the listing. The agent who pitches gets dial tone. Make sense? Now, the tone of your message is everything. If you get the tone wrong, the best script in the world is not going to save you. It's not always what you say, but how you say it. The tone that you use in communicating with expired sellers should be helpful and not salesing. Your only objective is to engage the lead. A lot of you are getting them on the phone and trying to win the listing in 2 minutes. That's not the mission. The mission is simply to identify them as a potential seller and get a face-to-face meeting with them. All right. And so that's the only objective. Get face-to-face, help them figure out why their house didn't sell and what to do differently next time when they're ready. Here's the trap. If you start pitching, if you start selling, if you start over-explaining, if you start offering your opinion of what went wrong and how to fix it, all of this I'm talking about is over the phone. All you're going to do is give them enough information to say no and not enough information to say yes. Your extra information, your selling, all of it, all it does is give them a reason not to meet with you. And what you need is you need to give them a reason to meet with you. So save all the selling for the in-person meeting. Here's the principle. You're going to offer them information without asking for a commitment. That's the entire move. All right. You're not asking them to hire you and you're not trying to convince them to list with you. Here are some of the openers that you can use. These are very soft. So I'm going to give you the exact script, but this really helps with the tone. Can I get you more information about selling your house fast and for the best price? Here's my favorite. Has anyone ever sat down with you and shown you exactly what it takes to sell a house fast and with multiple offers to get the best price? Would it be okay if I emailed you a copy of my home seller's guide? Insert the name of your guide. Would it be okay if I emailed you a copy of my home seller's guide on how to sell your house fast and for the best price? That's it. That's the whole opening. It's not a pitch. It's a question that they can easily say yes to. And when they say yes, that's when you ask for the email address, you qualify their intent, and then you book the meeting. Here's what I want you to really hear. One real conversation with a serious seller beats 10 new leads to chase. That's the whole goal. You just need to have more conversations with people who want to talk about selling. This is an easy way to do it. Quality and consistency are really what matter, not quantity. Stop chasing volume and concentrate on having more conversations with sellers who are ready to talk about selling. So here's the exact script that I use. Hey, Mr. Seller, this is David with ABC Realty. The reason I'm calling is that I saw your house was previously offered for sale, but came off the market before selling. I wanted to see if it would be okay for me to send you more information about our strategy to sell your house fast and for your price or more, to see if it's something that might make sense for you when you're ready. It explains what you can do to get your home sold fast and for the best price if you decide you want to try again. Would it be okay if I emailed you a copy? What's the best email to send it to? That's the whole call. Easy, right? Notice what's not in there. There's no pitch. There's no I have 15 years of experience. There's no I just hold the house down the street. There's no asking for the listing. The goal is simply to confirm interest by getting an email address. That's it. If you can get comfortable saying these 4 sentences, then you can call qualified leads. Once they give you their email address, don't hang up. All right. This is where you're going to transition to the appointment. So they give you the email address. You say, thanks, I'll send it over in a few minutes. When are you thinking about putting the house back on the market? And listen, all right? Whatever they say, just acknowledge it. Even if they say next year, 2029, next month, it doesn't really, just listen. Don't get excited. Don't get discouraged. Just listen. Gather the information. They answer, you say, I think it would be helpful to see the house and spend a few minutes with you to discuss the different strategies for getting your home sold fast and for your price or more when you're ready. Would Tuesday or Wednesday work for you? That's it. You got permission to send the guide. You asked a qualifying question, and then you ask for the meeting. All in the same call. No pressure, no pitch, just the next logical step. Here's the whole script. I want you to notice some language. I'm going to point out some nuances to this that you might not have picked up on yet. I use the term your price or more. This is especially important with expired sellers. Sellers don't want to sell their house for market price. They don't want to sell the best price in a lot of cases. They don't always want the highest price. You know what they want? They want their price. They want their price or more. Also, we use the phrase, when you're ready. All right. The reason that we use that phrase is that it takes the pressure off and makes the meeting purpose informational. All right. You're not asking them to list today. You're not asking them to list when you meet. You're asking them, to get you the information so you understand your options when you're ready. All right. All you're asking for is a meeting to discuss the strategies to sell their house fast and for their price. One more point. We did not ask if we could give them a listing presentation. Nobody wants a listing presentation. Okay, not even home sellers that are ready to list. They don't want a listing presentation. A listing presentation feels like a sales call. They don't want to be sold anything. What we do is we ask if we can discuss the different strategies for selling their house fast and for their price or more. The same result. We're still going to give them a listing presentation. It's just less resistance. Here's why it's critical. And this is where a lot of you blow it. All right. And if you don't take anything else away from what we do today, you don't want to do any of what I'm going to do this. Okay, this is the big takeaway if you're not going to do the other things. It's critical that you get face to face with a seller, even if they're weeks or months from being ready to list. Some of you think it's a big waste of time. If someone says, I'm not ready to sell till next year, you say, okay, well, let me know when you're ready. Some of them say, well, I'm not ready. I'll let you know when I'm ready. And then you believe them. I've never had somebody call me back and say, hey, remember we had a 3-minute phone call 6 months ago? I'm ready. Come on out and list me. The reason you go now is the odds of winning the listing from an initial call alone are about 5%. Most agents stop here. You've got to get face to face. Here's why. According to the National Association of Realtors, sellers choose the first agent they meet with 60% of the time. So the race is not to be the best pitch on the phone. The race is to be the first one in the living room. When you get an in-person meeting, the odds of winning that listing jump to about 50%. And if during that meeting, you can build genuine trust, you can demonstrate real expertise, you can lay out a solid strategy to get them the results that they want, the odds increase to about 80%. It is never a waste of time to meet with sellers, even if they're months away. The way I always looked at it, I'm going to need a listing in 3 months too. I'm going to need a listing in 6 months too. And I'd rather go have a meeting right now with a future seller than spend 2 hours making cold calls. The odds of winning a listing from an in-person meeting are much higher than finding a listing by grinding on the phone. And if you can't be the first agent in there, then you want to be the next agent in there. So get the meeting. Okay? Now, getting appointments, I know I make this sound easier than it is, all right? So getting appointments with expired sellers is not fishing in the fish, jump in the boat, okay? You're going to have to overcome objections. You got to catch the fish. That's what conversion is all about. Now, let me say this in as nice a way as I can. Failure to convert the lead is not the fault of the lead. Results vary by market, but mostly by agent. You're going to have to overcome objections. You're going to have to overcome resistance. You're going to have to overcome rejection. And if you can do that, your life is going to change. Here's what you need to understand about rejection. First, you got to remember, the seller's not rejecting you. It's not personal. What they're rejecting are the last 5 agents who called them trying to convince them to list the house they're not even sure what to do with yet. All right? Think about what this person just went through. They told their family, their friends, and their neighbors that they were going to sell. They cleaned their house. They moved out of the way for showings. They trusted the process, and it didn't work. Now they feel a little exposed. They're frustrated. Now every agent is calling, and believe me, their phone is blowing up, which is another reason I like texting. But now their phone is blowing up with agents that sound exactly the same. When they're telling you that we're not interested, when they tell you that we're taking a break, it's not a no. That's armor. What they're doing is that they're protecting themselves from another bad experience. Their caution comes from past bombardment. Skepticism is just their default because they've heard the pitch before. So acknowledge it instead of fighting it. Your advantage is simple. Most agents make one call, get rejected, and move on. But the agents who are getting these listings, they're the ones that show up differently. You're not leading with your resume. You're not pitching. You listen more than you talk. You show genuine interest in their situation. And here's the reframe that changes everything. You stop trying to win the listing on the phone. Focus on sitting down with them and helping them understand what it really takes to sell a house in this market. And that's how you eventually become their agent of choice. All right. So let's talk about overcome objections. So overcoming objections without overcoming them, right? It's a little play on words here, but whether or not you're cold calling, whether or not you're doing warm follow-up from a text, the objective is not to list the house over the phone. I know I'm being repetitive because this is a point that I want you to get. Your only objective when you're communicating with them on the phone is to book an in-person meeting. When you get objections or questions, and you will, don't be quick to respond with an answer. You don't need to overcome the objection. The best way to overcome them is to use them as the reason to meet. When a person's telling you no, they're not usually telling you no and oh. What they usually mean is they don't know K-N-O-W enough to make a well-informed decision. So your job is to get them new information and ask them to make a new decision based on that new information. You're not trying to move them from no to yes. Okay, that's a mistake a lot of agents make. We hear a no and we want to eventually get it to yes. No, you just need to move them to maybe and then book the in-person meeting, even if they're not selling for months. All right, so do this. When you get an objection, when you get resistance, all right, you acknowledge the seller's position. All right, then you ask a clarifying question to get proper context. Then you listen to the response. Then you address it by letting them know that you need more information. And part of getting that information requires seeing the house before you can properly answer. And then you ask for the meeting. You know, here's a question that you might get over the phone around price. Well, how much can you sell my house for? Well, that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out. For me to really answer that question effectively, I need to do a couple of hours of research and I need to see your house. But as soon as I see your house, I'll be able to lay out exactly what I think your house can sell for and the right pricing strategy that you should use in order to get that number or more. When can I see your house? Is Tuesday or Wednesday better? We can talk more about objections later, but whatever you do, don't debate. The objective here is not to win the argument. The objective is to understand the seller's position and schedule an in-person meeting. That's it. So let's bring it all together. All right. Expired listings are not just leads or statistics. They're real people who are frustrated, discouraged, and stuck. They tried to sell previously and it didn't work out. All right. They very likely still want to sell, but they don't know what to do next. That's where you come in. Every expired seller starts in the same place, stuck. They feel trapped and uncertain. They've already been through the process once and it failed. They don't need another agent showing up with a pitch. The problem they want to solve is my house didn't sell, but I still want to sell it. And that's why you want to position yourself as the agent with the best strategy to solve their problem. You don't need to tell them how great you are. If you write a guide, you will be instantly perceived as an expert. You just have to demonstrate that you know the market. And if you can get more information, you'll be able to tell them what went wrong and how they should do it differently next time. You book the meeting. That's where you can diagnose the issues and then prescribe the solutions. Was it pricing, presentation, exposure, strategy? Well, you figure that out in the meeting, and then the result is success. You win the listing and you restore their confidence in the process. So don't focus on getting the listing. Lead with genuine care for their situation and trust the listing will follow. All right. We're going to send the implementation guide to you. There are a lot of moving parts here. So if you need help, feel free to use me as a resource. For the do-it-yourselfers, we're happy to help you get set up with our lead sources and our automation technology. Those links are already in it. We also have a free school group that you can join. That link is also in the guide. If you're thinking that this is something that you want to do and you just need help getting started, or you want us to do it for you, you want us to do it with you, then you can book a private strategy call with me. I'll help you get to the next logical step. So there are a limited number of spots. So just one request. If you're going to book a call with me, please just book a time that you're sure you're going to be able to attend 100%. Don't book it and no show. If you're going to book the call, please book a time that you can attend. I hope I left you better than I found you. I'm happy to see you.